Greetings to you wherever you are in this world. This is Michelle Strickland, and I'm coming to you today with survival tips Thursday. So I'm just going to give you a few survival tips, and that you can utilize with very little money. Time management. Prioritize tasks and allot time effectively to maximize productivity. You should always be kind of paying attention to time a little bit. Have stuff scheduled, especially if you have a family. Even with yourself, you should just have something. It just keeps your mind sharp. Everybody should have something that they do. That they can manage. If it's nothing but getting up, getting cleaned up, how about a time frame for that? Get dressed, act like you're gonna go do something around the house, something like that. Just anything. You could be more specific with it when you have a family. Have a schedule for it. Johnny needs to be here. Susie needs to be there. You know, be organized with your time. Basic sewing skills. Knowing how to mend clothing can extend their lifespan in an emergency. Everybody should know how to do that. I know a lot of people probably don't know how to do it. See, when I was coming up, they taught us basic. My nose is itching. Sorry, they taught us basic stuff like that. But just go on the internet and look up little basic instruction on what you do. Because I used to do that with my kids, the stuff. You know. So sometimes I'll do it with some of my stuff, depending on what it is. Improvise tools. Learn to create basic tools using everyday items. I have to do that sometimes. If I can't find something specific, then I can be innovative and figure something out. Just need to have your mindset like that. In case of emergency, you don't have access to everything. So you need to try to figure out how to make things happen. Hygiene practices. Maintain personal hygiene to prevent illness and infections. You want to keep your hygiene up. You definitely want to keep your hygiene up. And if you're in a situation where there's no running water and stuff like that, what I'm suggesting you do is start getting stocked up on things like alcohol, stuff like that. Rubbing alcohol, and just put it up, because you're gonna want to be able to keep your hands clean at least. Because if you're handling food and things like that, that'll give you, if you want to be able to keep your hands clean. And so even if you have to spritz it out and just to keep your hands clean, because when you're eating and things and preparing your food, you don't want your food contaminated. It's already going to be a whole lot of other things you're going to have to be concerned about. So that's just a suggestion. If you're somewhere where you have access to water, that's wonderful. Then always keep your hands clean. If you can keep your body clean, that's great. But just be thinking about those types of things, because you might be in situations where you have to improvise and live off of whatever's available. Sanitation knowledge. Understand how to dispose of waste properly, especially in confined urban spaces. You're gonna have to figure stuff like that out. Keep bags. Plastic. You might have to keep plastic bags with you. That sounds gross and everything, and just go in plastic bag and dispose of it. In the best place you can. Try to be safe with that. Don't use that as you don't have no other option. This is in a case of emergency. Okay, there's some tips you can get on about that on YouTube. Everybody needs to know what to do. Because you want to keep your environment. You want to try to keep it as clean as possible. Because that's how diseases can spread if you don't be careful with your waste. So that's a whole discussion for, we could go on and on about that, you know. So just keep that in mind. CPR and basic life support. Everybody should have basic CPR instruction. I used to have to be certified every year with my jobs. Every year we had to do CPR in a lot of my jobs. We had to be, sir. We had to. And we had to pass the test the first time. So, my CPR certification has elapsed. I haven't had one for a while. Um, but a lot of my jobs when I was coming up professionally, I had to have CPR every year. I had to certify every year. So that's important. You can go online and get some basic tips, even if you're not certified, just in case. And I've been in situations where I was blessed to be able to know what to do, in a crisis before the medical team got there. So that's happened to me a few times, and I was just happened to be at the right place at the right time and knew what to do, and it you know it did save some lives. But then once the medical team came in, it was out of my hands. Then I got out the way, went on out, left or whatever. So it's good. It can happen. Stuff like that can happen. You need to have some basic understanding, CPR uh, understanding, stress management techniques. You need to work on that right now, because if you're in a crisis, everybody's going to be excited and upset and stuff like that. And whatever happens or has happened or is happening, that's where you are. So it's better to try to be calm. You already in a messed up situation. So being excited, overly hyped and excited about it isn't going to help you to be able to think correctly. So you have to try to be calm, even though it's difficult, so you can think your way through and try to figure ways out to get to somewhere safe. So you need to be thinking and be conscious of things like that. How your mindset might have to switch. You know, you don't want to be, even if you are upset and and scared and all this and that. Sometimes we got to be calm at the time when we want to be the most excited. So we got to be careful. And I know it's a lot. God forbid. Basic plumbing skills. Know how to shut off water in your home and make basic repairs if needed. Yeah, I mean, I can do that. I know how to shut my water off, but for other things, I need help. I do what I can. I work it out. Whatever my issue is, I work it out when I get to it or whatever. But yeah, or a lot of times I might have to hire somebody, but I try to know how to figure out how to manage and get by until I get somebody to come out and repair whatever it is that I need. These are things you need to think about. Weather forecasting. You want to make sure, like if in certain situations, the weather's going to be whatever it's going to be. That's really out of our control. So forecasting is exactly what it says. It's forecasting. It's a forecast, but it's not always exact, but it's accurate a lot. So you want to keep up with the weather in case you have to pay attention to whether you're in a sheltered area or not, covered, enclosed. Like if it's raining or snowy or something like that, or overly hot or whatever. You just want to have some sort of be able to figure out where you can go, where dependent upon the element that you're dealing with at the time. You just want to have those types of things in mind. Be thinking like that. Map reading. Everybody should know how to read a map. If you don't know how, you need to do that. I collect maps for a hobby. I collect maps. I love maps. That's a hobby of mine. Every state I go to, I make sure I stop at a visitor center. I find a visitor center. If you don't know what that is, look it up. In every state. And I go. I see where it's at and how far off my path it is. I find wherever I'm going, I make sure wherever I'm going, I get a map of that state. Everywhere. And I peep it. I don't necessarily use it, but I know how to read it. I get it because I collect them and I think they're cool. But you can use your phones now, but there might be a situation where you can't use your phone, then what? We used to not have no phone, so I had to get where I had to go by looking it up on the map. On a map. Everybody should learn how to do that. Because what if we don't have the internet? You got to know how to navigate. You got to know where you're going. So I'm going to stop it right there. I'll come, next week with some more tips. and then I'll just keep rotating them once I get to the end of it, and then I'll add stuff as I go. Okay. But anyway, this is Survival Tips Thursday. It's just giving you some basic survival tips that you can use on a limited budget. Okay? Anyway, remember, smile this day anyway, and reach out to one person at a time, one person at a time, one person at a time. Okay?